Before I knew it, time had slipped away, and the sunset was already painting the sky with hues of orange and pink. I called out to my daughter, telling her it was time to leave the sea. A wave of unease washed over me as I noticed my husband Bill and my mother-in-law Lily's luggage was missing. Just then, the roar of a boat's engine filled the air. My heart sank when I saw Bill on the boat, heading away with a determined speed, leaving my daughter and me stranded on the shore. "Hey, why are you leaving us behind?" I shouted in panic, swimming frantically after the boat. Despite its small size, I couldn't catch up. The risk of injury if I tried to reach it was too high. "It's not like we're blood relatives," I heard Bill say from the boat, his voice cold and indifferent. My shock grew as Lily looked back at me with a mocking laugh, her eyes filled with amusement. Bill's disdainful glance cut through me, and as the boat moved further away, my daughter and I were left alone, our distress growing by the second. I am Lauren, a 32-year-old housewife, living with my husband Bill and our 7-year-old daughter Jessica. Jessica is dedicated to her studies, sports, and piano lessons, which she has been taking since she was 5. She's my pride and joy, and our life together is full of happiness. However, things with Bill have deteriorated. We met 10 years ago when I joined the company as a new employee, and Bill, who was 2 years my senior, became my trainer. I admired his work ethic and the care he took in teaching me, and we soon began dating. After 2 years, we married and enjoyed a blissful start to our life together. Bill was attentive and loving, and when Jessica was born, he cherished her like an angel. But when Jessica was around 2 years old, Bill's demeanor shifted drastically. He became distant, neglecting both me and our daughter. I was baffled and heartbroken by this sudden change. After a month of growing distance, I confronted Bill. "Why have you become so cold toward me and Jessica? Did I do something wrong? It's really hurting me." Bill's response was chillingly calm. "Because that child is not mine." "What?" I was stunned and confused. "Jessica is our child." "What are you talking about? She is definitely your daughter." I tried to explain my side, but Bill wouldn't listen. He insisted that Jessica didn't resemble me at all. "That's not true," I argued. "She's only 2 years old. As she grows, she'll likely start to look more like you." "No, you're wrong. I won't be fooled. She has green eyes. Her eyes are quite large, too." I was taken aback. "But I have green eyes too, so she has the same eye color as me." Bill seemed a bit unsettled by this, but his pride prevented him from accepting it. "You're probably trying to deceive me." "No, I'm not. You really have to believe me." Bill asked for some time to think and went back to his parents' house. During his absence, doubt began to creep into my mind. I questioned whether we could truly build a family together, or if our marriage was even salvageable. While staying with his parents, Bill only shared his side of the story. As a result, Lily called me, expressing her disdain with harsh words. Eventually, my in-laws and I met to discuss the matter, and we agreed to do a DNA test to settle the issue once and for all. Bill argued that the results were obvious without the test, but I insisted on proceeding. Reluctantly, he agreed. The test results confirmed that Jessica was indeed Bill's child. When Bill saw the results, he was stunned. "You've got to be kidding me." My father-in-law, Pete, stepped in and said, "The results are clear. Just admit it and apologize to Lauren." With Pete's firm intervention, Bill finally came to his senses. "Lauren, I'm sorry." Bill bowed his head and apologized, and though I was still hurt, I chose to forgive him for the moment. I knew that many people might have opted for a divorce after such an incident, but my situation was complicated. I had become a housewife after our marriage and wasn't earning enough to support myself, let alone take Jessica's father away from her at such a young age. Moreover, I had married Bill because I loved him deeply, and I didn't want to end our relationship without trying to work things out. In hindsight, I sometimes regret not choosing divorce at that time. Despite that, I continued our life together, though there was an underlying awkwardness between us. Slowly, we began to reconnect and talk more, making our relationship feel somewhat normal again. However, Bill struggled to bond with Jessica. Whenever I encouraged him to spend time with her, he would respond with, yeah, sure, and then awkwardly play with her for a bit before saying, I think mothers are better at this, and passing her back to me. As a result, Bill rarely played with Jessica as she grew up. When Jessica was about 5, her curiosity was boundless. She read voraciously and asked me countless questions about everything she encountered. One day she inquired about history, and knowing that Bill had a strong grasp of world history, I suggested she ask him for answers. So Jessica ran to Bill with her question. I made every effort to improve the relationship between Bill and Jessica, but his response was disheartening. Whenever Jessica sought his attention, he would dismiss her with comments like, "You'd get a better answer if you ask your mother." This left Jessica confused and unsure of whom to turn to. I approached Bill and said, "Jessica is asking you for help. You should be more attentive to her." Bill's response was disheartening. "You're here for this kind of thing. If you're around, then there's no need for me." His words shocked me. I couldn't understand why he was so unwilling to spend time with our daughter. It was clear that Jessica felt neglected and lonely without her father's involvement. I tried to bridge the gap and strengthen our family bond, but Bill consistently refused to make time for us. Jessica worked diligently at her piano and studies, partly out of her own determination, but also in the hope of gaining her father's attention. My frustration with Bill grew, and one night I confronted him. "Enough is enough. Why are you avoiding Jessica? She's trying so hard to connect with you. You haven't even attended one of her piano recitals." Bill's response was cold and dismissive. "I let her do whatever she wants. That's my way of fulfilling my role as a father." I retorted, "You're being too distant with your own daughter." In response, Bill questioned, "I do wonder if she really is my child." "What are you talking about?" I snapped. "We had a DNA test." Despite my explanation, Bill remained unconvinced and retreated to his room. I was at a loss, wondering how I could ever change his mindset. Then out of the blue, Bill proposed, "Let's go on a trip to Hawaii with the whole family." Bill suggested that we, along with my in-laws, should all go on a trip together. I was thrilled at the idea. Finally, Bill was making an effort to spend time with Jessica and me, and it felt like the chance for us to create some joyful memories as a family. When we arrived, Bill revealed that he had booked a boat for us and took Jessica and me to the port. The boat was small, but charming, and I was excited about the adventure ahead as we set sail into the sea. Jessica's face lit up with a bright smile as she looked at the boat. Bill, who had a boat driving license, planned to take us to a nearby deserted island. My father-in-law Pete had other plans. He wanted to buy some items and visit a friend living in Hawaii, so he wouldn't be joining us this time. With that, Jessica, Bill, Lily, and I set off for the deserted island. When we arrived, the island was stunningly beautiful. Jessica was awestruck by its scenery. Bill had brought snorkeling equipment, and he eagerly dived into the water alone at first. After a while, he invited Jessica and me to join him. I put on my gear and dived in, having done it a few times before, but it was Jessica's first experience. Bill patiently guided her through the process, and watching him take on a more involved fatherly role filled me with happiness. Jessica seemed thrilled to have her father teaching her, and she quickly started getting the hang of it. After some time, Bill decided to take a break and got out of the water. I made sure Jessica stayed close while I continued to enjoy diving with her. Before I knew it, time had flown by, and the sunset was already beginning to cast its golden hues over the horizon. I told my daughter it was time to leave the sea. At that moment, an unsettling feeling crept over me about what might happen next. I noticed that Bill and my mother-in-law Lily's luggage was missing. Then the roar of a boat's engine caught my attention. To my shock, Bill had boarded the boat and was leaving me and Jessica behind on the shore. "Hey, why are you leaving us?" I called out in panic, swimming toward the boat. Despite its small size, I couldn't catch up, and I feared I might hurt myself if I tried to reach it. As I approached, I heard Bill say, "It's not like we're related by blood, so this should be fine." His words stunned me. Lily peered out from the boat's bow and laughed. "Ha, look at that dumb face." Bill shot me a disdainful look, and then the boat sped away, leaving Jessica and me stranded. I hurried back to the island and found Jessica, who looked terrified. "Are we stranded here?" she asked, her voice trembling. I hugged her tightly, soothing her as she began to cry. "Everything will be all right," I reassured her, though the reality of being stranded on a deserted island was daunting. Luckily, I had some portable food in my bag, enough to last us a day or two, but not for long. I hoped someone would notice we were missing. With Jessica by my side, I tried to stay calm. "Let's warm up for now," I said. "We could catch a cold since we're still wet from snorkeling." I carefully dried Jessica's hair and body with the towel I had brought and dressed her. Together, we gathered thin tree branches and dead leaves to start a fire. Thankfully, I had a lighter with me, and I used it to ignite the kindling. The fire slowly spread to the branches and leaves, providing us with much-needed warmth. Despite our efforts, anxiety gnawed at me. What if no one came to rescue us? About 2 hours after Bill had left, a small boat appeared on the horizon. I leaped up, frantically waving my arms and shouting for help. The boat approached and came to a halt near us. The man on board, a staff member from the boat rental shop, called out, "Are you okay?" He gestured for us to climb aboard. As we boarded the boat, the man explained that after Bill and Lily returned the boat, they had left immediately. The man realized that the number of people who had returned was not correct, which raised his concern. His worry prompted him to come to the island to check on us. Overwhelmed with relief, I burst into tears. Jessica, exhausted from fear, had fallen asleep in my arms. We were safely back at the island where our hotel was located. After thanking the people who had rescued us, Jessica and I made our way back to the hotel. In the lobby, I ran into Pete. "Oh, Lauren, aren't you with my son and wife?" he asked. When he saw how tired and distressed I looked, his concern deepened. "Let's sit over here in the lounge," Pete suggested. Once we were seated, I recounted everything that had happened, how we had been abandoned and Bill's ongoing neglect of Jessica. Pete listened intently and then bowed his head in apology. "I can't forgive what Bill and Lily did to you," he said sullenly. Pete had always been the one to seek the truth when Bill doubted Jessica's paternity, and he had always shown love for his grandchild. He was truly my only ally. "We need to teach them a lesson," Pete declared. I agreed, and we headed to the front desk of the hotel. Fortunately, Bill and Lily had not yet returned to the hotel, likely because they were out dining. Since I had made the hotel reservation, I canceled our stay. This way, Bill and Lily would not be able to stay there. Pete planned to stay at his friend's place nearby and would wait for us at the hotel to inform us about it. He then led Jessica and me to his friend's house, where we were warmly welcomed by his friend and his wife. By then, Jessica had woken up and was enjoying a comforting home-cooked meal they had prepared. Just then, I received a call informing me that Bill and Lily had been detained by the police. They had caused a scene at the hotel's front desk over not being able to check in, aggressively protesting their reservation. The front desk had reported the incident, prompting the police to intervene. Bill and Lily likely protested because they didn't want to be held accountable, but refusing to cooperate with the police only made matters worse. They reached out to Pete and me for help, but we declined. I informed the police that they had abandoned Jessica and me on a deserted island. The boat staff, who had witnessed the situation, also provided statements as evidence. As a result, Bill and Lily faced criminal charges and found themselves in a dire situation. Bill, in a panic, scrambled to hire a lawyer and was hit with a hefty bail, losing thousands of dollars overnight. They spent several days in jail before being released on bail, both physically and emotionally drained. It felt satisfying to see them face consequences, especially since, without the boat staff's timely intervention, Jessica and I could have suffered much more. Jessica and I returned home before the others, packed our belongings, and moved back to my parents' house. Bill arrived shortly after with divorce papers, through my lawyer, demanding alimony for the emotional distress he had caused. Through my lawyer, I asked him why he had been so neglectful towards his daughter. Bill explained that he had lost all affection for Jessica once he doubted her paternity, despite the DNA test confirming she was his. This revelation was shocking and heartbreaking. I regretted not separating Jessica from such a terrible father sooner. After the divorce, Bill was left with alimony and child support payments, plunging him into debt. I reported his behavior to my former boss, which led to this disgrace spreading throughout his company. Bill's reputation took a severe hit, and the stress of his situation, combined with his debt, has been overwhelming. Pete, deeply affected by the incident, divorced Lily. Stripped of her source of income and jobless, Lily found herself living in a rundown apartment, struggling with a part-time job. She sought help from Bill, but he refused, citing his own financial troubles. Meanwhile, I secured a new job, rented a small apartment for Jessica and me, and began rebuilding our lives. Jessica no longer sees Bill as her father and showers me with affection. She practices piano diligently and tells me, "I'm going to win the next competition for you, Mommy." I'm committed to supporting Jessica in pursuing her passions with all my strength. Leaving us on a deserted island was a criminal act, and while I believe Bill and Lily deserved their consequences, I'm grateful that Pete proved to be a decent man. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you in our next video.